Ready? Okay, let's take a great posture. Best posture of the day. Take a good breath and give it away with a bow. All right, I want to talk about how the wonderful, beautiful, wild animal, the wild, beautiful gazelle or tiger or elephant or giraffe or cow or whatever of yoga has been imprisoned and put in a cage and beaten and shackled and humbled and broken like you break horses, wild horses. And this discussion is brought to you by our wonderful sponsor, aspiration.com. 2% off. No. Yeah, you can make 2% on your savings and free ATM use anywhere in the world. So if you travel, right there is a great reason to join. Aspiration is genuinely a mindful sponsor. I appreciate because they take your money and do good things with it and make you money. So what's not to love? Aspiration.com. All right, back to our regular scheduled programming. So yoga. Yoga is totally effed. Yoga in 2019 looks almost nothing like yoga in 2009, let alone 1999. Is change bad? Oh, hell no. In 1940s, women weren't even allowed to do yoga. So am I bemoaning, the changes in yoga? Not necessarily. Do I think there was some golden age of yoga in the hereafter, in the woe-begone over there? No. I think we are potentially in a golden age of yoga right now. More like 2009. And here's why. So I have a blog on elephantjournal.com called The Future of Yoga. And it does something very bold, but very necessary and very humbling, which is it defines what yoga is. So, who would ever want to define yoga? That's a crazy thing to think you could do. But I've had the honor of, for 16 years, for 20 years, of interviewing every great yoga teacher, 99.9% of whom are totally unknown to Instagram yoga land, which is part of the issue, which we'll get to. And I've practiced yoga ardently, and I'm thoroughly mediocre at yoga at this point. Thank you. After many years of practice and avoiding practice. So I define yoga in Future of Yoga with three things. One is intention. So if you're going into yoga to lose 5 pounds, that's great, right? Or maybe it's not. But that doesn't really make it yoga. If you're going into yoga to get a great yoga tush, yoga butt, yoga ass, that's fine. But it doesn't make it yoga. The intention of yoga is to, as it says in Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, to still the waves of the mind. I would go further and say it's not all about me and my little enlightenment, it's to be a benefit to other people. The usual, being a benefit. Wah, wah, wah. So, what's number two? Number two is breath. If breath is not a part of yoga, then it becomes basically more about exercise. Exercise can have great breath work in it, but so can smoking. So breath. Breath is what connects yoga directly with being a meditative practice. And then the third quality that makes it yoga or not yoga is alignment. So alignment back in 2009 was huge, but now we have some real concerns about adjustments, right? Don't touch me without permission. Ask consent if you're a teacher seeking to do adjustments. We've all seen, I exposed this, I broke the news, elephantjournal.com, I don't get any credit for this. Patabi Joyce was a huge assaulter, very casually, touching women's private areas. That blog is on Elephant like 10 years back. It's another big controversy going on right now. People are like, oh my God, look at this. And I'm like, oh my God, I broke that news 10 years ago. But it's good that a new generation is waking up to the fact that we shouldn't be theistic. And I have a blog and a video and a podcast on theism, unsexy word of the week. Unsexy word of the week! So, all right. The reason why I wanted to define yoga is because, like, I don't know if any of you have seen that amazing 1980s film about the aerobics fad with John Travolta and, what's her name? Jamie something? It's amazing. Jamie Lee Curtis. Oh, it's amazing. It's so tacky and so awful and so funny. So yoga went through the exact same thing. It became this huge fad and everyone was going out and getting yoga outfits on and doing their like yoga aerobic stuff. And it was, that's great because people are getting into their bodies, they're breathing, they're celebrating, they're communitying. Nothing's wrong. This isn't some like big judgmental thing, but nothing is wrong with judging as long as it's not prejudging. Prejudging is preconception or prejudice. Judging should be aligned with clear seeing or discernment. You don't want to eat poop, you want to eat an organic apple. That's discernment or judging. We have a podcast on that, and it's titled Judgment? Judgy? Judgy Lee Curtis. So, you know, yoga, I think we all would agree, is ideally different than aerobics, right? Aerobics is great, it's fun. I want to do it when I'm 85 with a bunch of sexy 85-year-old ladies. But that's different than yoga. So how has yoga in the past 10 years been completely co-opted by Mark Zuckerberg? As Vanessa, my producer, yawns. Do you believe it? I'm so boring. Okay, I don't blame her. So Instagram has become where yoga is seen, where yoga happens. Instagram was bought for $1 billion or whatever by Facebook. Instagram has the algorithm. Instagram is about making money. I don't think that's news to anyone. Instagram is a visual medium with captions. Some people, some yogis, are amazing on Instagram. I would hold up Yoga Girl as someone who, while far from perfect, in a way that is why she is so wonderful. She is who she is. Did she get famous doing bikini photos on the beach? Sure. Were her captions super genuine and heartfelt and genuine? Yes. Was she a fantastic yoga teacher? Not necessarily, and I think she would say that at the time. She wrote about this on Relephant, doing teacher trainings and stuff while becoming crazy famous. Back in the day, back in my day, I went to yoga class uphill both directions in the winter, in a blizzard, and I had to cut wood. So, you know, back in the day, there was a thing called Yoga Journal. It still exists, barely. It's been bought. And Yoga Journal, while far from perfect, I think a lot of us kind of feared it in certain ways, really had editors and had, you know, quality standards, and they kind of anointed the next famous yoga teachers also through their conferences. But then along came 8,000 million conferences, mainly Wanderlust. I think the community conferences and festivals have always been a positive effect generally on yoga teachers and yoga community. Wanderlust and stuff are great too. I like them because they're so environmental and fun. And so, but basically, back in the day, it took a long time to become a famous yoga teacher. And the famous yoga teachers were really good at teaching yoga. And they had studied for a very long time with people who knew yoga. And it was really hard. And I don't think anyone here wants to get needles stuck in your face from an acupuncturist who became famous on Instagram because of their cute photos of acupuncture. But right now we're all okay to get, you know, New York Times did an article, Yoga Will Break Your Body or something. And the yoga community was so defensive about it. It was insane. You read the article, you're like, yeah, if you're not doing proper alignment 10 years in, if your up dog looks like this, if you're on the podcast, imagine me doing a really bad up dog with my shoulders forward, you will break your body within 10 years. And it took me years of practice at Richard Freeman's yoga studio before I got an adjustment that really showed me what I was doing wrong there. And my shoulders were back. It wasn't obvious. I think I was squeezing my shoulder blades too much. So it's called practice for a reason. It takes time. So yoga can break your body without alignment. Yoga without breath isn't going to be meditative. Yoga without intention could be selfish and just about our physical, external beauty or lack thereof. And that can bring in a lot of shame if we don't conform to those standards. And when you look at most, and I should know because we are regularly inviting a lot of these people to write on Relephant, and they're wonderful human beings, but a lot of the influencers, a lot of the yoga stars on Instagram have one thing in common. They, everything new is old again. It's 2019, but they conform to certain physical expectations of beauty, whether they're men or women. And that's okay, because that is one kind of beauty. And there are definitely famous yoga teachers who don't conform to that, and cheers and support to them. But either way, we're basically being put in this theistic position with these famous people up here who we don't even know if they've studied yoga with teachers and learned and practiced and sweat and suffered, because spirituality isn't a salad bar where you just take the pleasant stuff and you leave out the hard stuff. Yoga, like any spiritual path, is difficult. Like even your work path as an entrepreneur or as anyone practicing right livelihood at any company. It's going to involve a lot of hard stuff, like a parent. It's not all fun to be a parent. So at this point, I feel like Instagram has wholly captured the attention and the focus of every young yoga teacher. That's where they blog, that's where they post photos, that's where they post captions of every famous or experienced yoga teacher. And all the great yoga teachers, most of whom are retiring now or retiring in 10 years or retired 10 years ago, are basically unknown to all this sort of Instagram generation. And that to me is really sad. It's like in one generation we have lost decades and decades, if not thousands of years of learning and study. So to make one analogy, and then I'll, if anyone is still here with my negative rant on yoga, I'll conclude. But is as if, thousands of years of knowing how to garden or farm in a regenerative way or in a permaculture fashion or in building a house with natural quality with lath and plaster, not just toxic drywall and plywood as we do now. If suddenly all those great teachers of permaculture and regenerative agriculture and traditional farming methods or natural home building were forgotten because the new world was just people who are good at making beautiful photos and captions. And that's where we are now. How do we get out of that? I think we support independent media, we support mission-driven media, and we seek out teachers, whether famous or not, who have studied, who do those three things, who emphasize breath, adjustments, or alignment, and intention. It's that simple. And we get away from the glittery kind of retreats in Bali, which again could be great and super fun. You can invite me, but may just be more about having a wonderful travel experience with a little exercise and a little party than studying the path of yoga. So Richard Freeman, one of the great yoga teachers of all time, he's basically retired now. You can still do his teacher training here in Boulder. If you hear this, please apply. And there's many other great teachers like him around, women and men, of course. All right, thank you so much. And thank you to our sponsor, Aspiration.com, who's taken money and turned it into an engine for good, Aspiration.com. Take a good posture, find a good breath, and give it away.